Welcome, everybody. Everything we do is about and for patients. So it's crucial that we not only have their needs front and foremost in our work, but also that we hear from patients themselves. With that in mind, I'm delighted to welcome Trishna Baradia to the Intergene Digital Summit. Trishna is a multi-award winning patient engagement professional and advocate with around 15 years experience in the field. She works with multiple stakeholders, including pharma, medical publishers, and medcoms, and she works to better embed the patient voice into the healthcare ecosystem and into medicine's development life cycles. She's also a visiting lecturer in patient engagement at King's College London and has authored many publications. Her awards include being named a Pharma Voice 100 honoree and becoming an honorary member of the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Medicine at the Royal College of Physicians, both for her outstanding contributions to the life sciences. I have had the good fortune to know Trishna for many years, and we've worked together frequently. So I'm going to embarrass her now by telling you that she is also a TV star, and she should be adding professional dancing on TV to her long list of achievements. Trishna, welcome to the IDS. The floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Lisa. You'll be glad to know I won't be dancing today. So hi, everyone. It's really great to be here. If we could bring my slides up, that would be great. I'd like to start by saying thank you to Intergene for asking me to be part of this wonderful event. Over the next 30 minutes, I'm really looking forward to sharing with you some insights and guidance around patient engagement in the age of AI and technology and how they can work together for better outcomes. We go to the next slide. I'm Trishna Baradia, and I've worked in the patient engagement and advocacy space, as Lisa mentioned, for 15 years now. My main areas of interest include good patient engagement practice, the design and delivery of patient-centered projects, involving patients in scientific publications and health information, and diversity, equity, and inclusion in healthcare and research. My publications are available on ORCID, and do feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. There will be a QR code utilising technology that you can scan right at the end of this presentation, or you can just search for me. I'm pretty easy to find. So if we go to the next slide, I want to dive straight in. And as someone who lives with multiple health conditions and who works in the patient engagement space, I have to say, it feels like AI is everywhere right now. I remember about 10 years ago, I felt like any conversation that we had about technology in healthcare, and it was all about blockchain. Now it feels like AI is the shiny new thing. But the difference is that AI is also in our everyday lives in a way that something like blockchain I don't think ever was, or at least wasn't apparently. Even my mum has started to use ChatGPT quite scarily because she thinks it can solve everything, in the same way that when she first started using Google, she thought that was the answer to every problem you could think of. Now, there's obviously lots of different applications for AI in healthcare, but I'm going to focus on where I see that AI can be used by pharma to improve patient outcomes from the patient perspective. And I'll particularly focus on a few areas. Now, patients want more treatment options, and using AI in drug discovery and design is one way to make this happen. Benevolent AI's proprietary AI-enabled platform is being used by AstraZeneca to move targets into its discovery portfolio in less time. Now, a new heart failure target was selected just 2 years after heart failure was included in an expanded deal between the two companies. That's quick. And even patient advocacy groups are leveraging AI in this. For instance, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has a collaboration with CytoReason for accelerating drug discovery and supporting clinical trial recruitment. And then once drugs are in clinical trials, AI has the potential to optimize the study process for patients. I've just mentioned speeding up recruitment, but there's also improving retention by predicting enrollment rates and identifying ideal candidates. And this can help to particularly reach underserved populations, improve trial diversity, and bring medicines to market faster. All these things are things that patient communities want. Better diagnosis and prognosis can help pharma to optimize and personalize treatments, cutting out the need for the try it and see approach that is still the standard approach in healthcare for many diseases and is really frustrating for patients. In multiple sclerosis, for instance, a project at University College London, which I'm involved in, is using AI to analyse thousands of brain MRI scans. And this has enabled the identification of 3 new MS subtypes. What this means is being able to, in the future, personalise care. And it highlights early signs of progression that may not be detectable by humans yet. Also, aiding personalised treatment decisions is the whole area of patient data analytics. So, for instance, GSK has teamed up with Tempus to integrate real-world clinical data and molecular insights, which is allowing oncologists to have actionable intelligence to make personalised treatment decisions in cancer. Now, when it comes to patient engagement in pharma, supply chain and manufacture is really the forgotten function. Often organisations think that by the time it gets to this point in the development life cycle, the patients don't have much to say or they're not interested. But that's not the case. And in fact, this is a really important area for patients, and there are various pain points where AI and technology could help to build models that are more responsive and offer patients more choice so that they're not worried about supply interruptions, challenges around polypharmacy, and particularly in some places, authenticity and counterfeiting. Merck KGaA and Era Technology, for instance, have partnered to apply AI and machine learning algorithms for better capacity planning, sourcing, and forecasting, which has resulted in 90% better forecast accuracy. This is all good for patients. And then the final area is patient engagement, education, and information. If we go to the next slide, this is an area that I'd like to spend a moment to focus on, because for me, this is a bit of a quick win, in my opinion, because it's an area in which patients are already using AI, so they're already familiar with it to an extent. Using conversational AI and chatbots to offer personalised support and communication, particularly within a clinical trial setting, should really improve the patient experience and also enhance accessibility and inclusion into trials. An AI nurse, for instance, who's available 24/7 to answer questions in real time about trial logistics, about how to take medications, and the many other questions that people often have because they've forgotten what was in the informed consent form. Interactions could be adapted to consider different languages and even different formats. So, for instance, video and audio, as well as text. And that brings me on to omni-channel engagement. And this is the optimal way of communicating with patients because no one size fits all. I'm always saying to organisations when they ask, which format would patients prefer? It's not about one format or one channel. It's always about having as many possible available channels to patients. AI can optimize this and also help with targeted communications that have consistent messaging across multiple platforms so that patients are receiving the same information. I'd also love to see the more utilization of social media listening by pharma in order to really get to know the patient community. I always say that the conversations that patients have with professionals, whether that's healthcare professionals in clinic or industry professionals, say during an advisory board, those conversations are often different from the conversations that they're having with their peers on their social media platforms. Empowering patient-led medicine and putting patients more in control of their treatment journeys is another area for digital. Virtual health platforms like direct-to-patient platforms, NovoCare and Lilly Direct, are really gaining traction, and they're offering AI-powered tools that guide patients through their treatment journey. Customized AI-driven interventions have been shown to improve treatment adherence by up to 9.7% in chronic disease management. And the AI-driven program at Walgreens shows that an increase in drug adherence rate of 5.5% for hypertension, 9.7% for statins, and 8.6% for diabetes when patients received AI personalized outreach. Now, this is clinically meaningful. Even small improvements in adherence, you get better disease control and also fewer hospitalizations. And AI can also prompt behavioral nudges. So it sends reminders, encouragement, or tips to keep patients engaged and informed based on their engagement patterns. Patients are also increasingly using AI tools like ChatGPT to research treatments, to interpret their test results, and learn more about their disease. However, a study published in Curious that evaluated ChatGPT-4's responses to over 40 common questions asked by COPD patients found that whilst AI's answers were consistent, there was a reproducibility score of 93.2%. Only 1 in 5 responses were fully correct. And almost 80% of the responses were judged as only partially accurate. Now, none were completely wrong, but omissions were frequent. And this really offers an opportunity for pharma to provide accurate, AI-optimized content that supports informed decision-making and reduces the risks of misinformation. Next, we have content and campaign creation. More than 80% of pharma companies report exploring AI to streamline quality review, tagging, and content design. And personalization is also big here. AI can analyze patient data to deliver customized educational materials that are best suited for that patient community and subgroups within it. And this is particularly good for being able to adjust complexity and format based on a patient's health literacy and engagement level. Now, I'll come on to that more in a bit, but I'd like to mention now how AI can be used to generate and update educational resources based on the latest clinical data and patient feedback for things like automated frequently asked questions and guides. And this means that patients are receiving the most up-to-date information available. AI can also be used for predictive insights to identify knowledge gaps, and this means that you can detect when patients are likely to misunderstand or misuse medications and trigger targeted, personalized medical interventions. And then finally, we also have the development of patient information, where generative AI can be used to simplify complex medical information into more digestible formats for patients. So, for instance, plain language summaries of publications. Now, in the past, quality has come into question, but that is improving. And a piece of research I was involved in earlier this year showed that not only are AI-generated plain language summaries significantly better quality than just 1 year ago, but on average, they scored higher than all the summaries in the study that were written by healthcare professionals who self-described as having training or experience in writing for broad audiences. This is a particular interest of mine because at the moment, not every peer-reviewed manuscript or research poster or Congress abstract is accompanied by a PLS. And Gen AI provides the opportunity for industry to produce PLS quicker, notwithstanding the continued need for some human intervention, for instance, medical writer and patient review. AI would facilitate PLS generation every publication that is released where it's appropriate. So if we go to the next slide, there are things that Pharma needs to consider for using AI in a patient-centered way. Now, transparency is crucial for trust. So it must always be made clear where AI is being used and how, as well as the data sources and the data limitations. But all of this needs to be made clear in a way that patients understand. Engaging with patients in AI-based projects early and consistently will mean that patients' needs and their preferences will remain at the heart. And I'll come on to how to do this in a bit, but it really needs to be from design through to deployment, not just at the user testing stage. And it should also be cross-functionally where applicable as well. Now, engaging with patients can also ensure that equity, diversity, and inclusion is considered in tech development, including cultural competence, especially because we need to reduce the risk of inherent bias in AI models that could deepen existing health disparities. Obviously, privacy and data security needs to be paramount. So does communicating about this to patients. Ongoing validation and monitoring as AI models evolve also enhances patient-centeredness, particularly to prevent hallucinations. And we also need to consider ethical implications of using AI in a space that has always relied on humanization. This sentiment is reflected in a 2024 PubMed study, which called for regulatory bodies to include a range of experts, including HCPs, ethicists, AI experts, and also patient advocacy organizations, alongside the pharmaceutical companies to develop the ethical governance of AI in healthcare. Now, if you're interested in this aspect, there's also an Oath to Gen AI in Healthcare that has been published. Full disclosure, I was asked to review it, but the website is on the screen. So if we go to the next slide, engaging with patients is now well accepted as good practice in healthcare, but I wanted to touch on how do we do this well. I'm not going to sit here and say you should be engaging with patients and then not offer some guidance as to how to do that. So firstly, you need to engage patients in relevant tasks and at appropriate times during the project lifecycle. Co-production is the gold standard method of engagement, but it may not always be the most appropriate. If you search on the internet for the ladder of co-production, you'll be able to see the different ways in which patients can be involved. You need to choose the right method according to the activity, but also the right type of patient for the activity too. If we go to the next slide, we'll see what I mean by this. And that is that not all patients are one and the same. Much like HCPs, patients come with different levels of expertise and experience. So for instance, if you're developing an AI model, you might want to work with a patient key opinion leader or expert patient to be an embedded part of the project team. But then you might engage with patients by experience for user testing and feedback. If we go to the next slide, this shows the different ways in which different patient voices can get involved effectively. and also in a meaningful way. We can chat some more about this during the Q&A if we have time, but I wanted to include it for reference because it really does provide a good foundation for effective and meaningful patient engagement. If we go to the next slide, we're coming back to the principles of good patient engagement practice, and we have transparency. And this is where good contracting comes in. AI could help with this by creating plain language versions of, patient contracts that often include a lot of legal jargon and hard to understand language. Giving consideration to patient needs to optimize their involvement is also key. Accessibility requirements, training if necessary, using patient-friendly language during meetings. And then finally, two important areas. Patients should feel valued, not just remunerated for their time and reimbursed for their expenses, but also feel that their input has been acknowledged and appreciated, and they've made a difference. And this is where feedback loops are important. And then make sure that the patients that you're engaging are representative of the patient population and then make sure that the patients you're engaging are representative of the patient population that you're targeting, and that there is equitable opportunity for them to get involved. But if we go to the next slide, PFMD, Patient-Focused Medicines Development, has a quality guidance tool that can help you plan patient engagement projects. So do check it out if you're engaging patients in the development of your AI models and AI-related projects. If we go to the next slide, we are coming to an end, but I did want to leave you with some few key takeaways. Firstly, there are numerous opportunities for patient-centered AI use, and I'm really excited by the opportunities that are being created. However, ethics and transparency are paramount. We can never forget that we're dealing with people and their health, and that they need to be able to trust the process. Now, a way to do this is to incorporate the patient voice early and consistently, employing good patient engagement practices. If you're not used to working with patients, there are others who can help internally, such as within your patient advocacy or your medical affairs function, or externally through patient engagement professionals and advocates. We also have to remember that at least when it comes to the patient perspective, AI is a tool and it isn't the end goal. So we also need to remember to keep things relevant, and engaging with patients will help you to do this, because they'll tell you if it's not relevant. They'll tell you if actually we need to get the basics right first. And for example, it would be really great if we could just have a single electronic health record. Now, finally, patient-centered healthcare needs to remain humanized. We're dealing with people's health and people's lives, and we can't forget that. There's a saying within patient centricity circles, nothing about us without us. And whilst AI holds the potential for being extremely powerful, it's not a replacement for the value of lived experience and human connection. So we go to the next slide. I've just included some references and some reading that you might find useful. And then if we go to the final slide, you'll find my contact details. As I said, do connect with me. Thank you for listening, and I'm really happy to answer some questions.
Thanks so much, Trishna. There were some fantastic insights. And actually, what I really liked was pragmatic, sensible suggestions for how pharma can actually do what you're asking them to do and what we all want to do. I know we're very close to coming up on time, but I can see a couple of questions in the chat already. So let's try and see how many questions we can get through, if that's okay with you. So the first one is, are patients open to using AI when it comes to their health?
So that's a very good question. And I think the short answer is yes, but with guardrails. Patients are increasingly themselves open to using these innovations. I read recently that there was a survey done, and 50% of the patients who were surveyed said that they were comfortable with doctors using AI to assist in their healthcare. And you know what? If I'm honest, it used to be that I saw people going on to patient support groups on Facebook, and they were uploading their test results, and they were posting photos of their imaging reports or their clinic letters, and they were asking other patients in these Facebook support groups what they meant. Now I'm seeing that they're either themselves putting it into ChatGPT, or other patients in these groups are telling them to put it into ChatGPT. And I've even seen other patients downloading these photos that people are posting, and they're sticking it into ChatGPT on their behalf. Now, it's literally, it's like the Wild West out there at the moment. And I think that, as I said, even though there's this obvious willingness, patients and the public really can be quite contradictory. They want to be certain that the data is secure, but this is also telling me that they often don't understand the implications of using open source AI models. So what I think we really need is some good education campaigns that are targeted at the patient community so that they can better understand AI and how to use it effectively and securely within the healthcare setting. I actually recently attended a Health in AI Summit, and transparency, trust, that was all being talked about literally in almost every session. And there is research to show that transparency, endorsement by healthcare professionals, and evidence of accuracy are really crucial when it comes to building trust in these systems. And trust within the healthcare setting is incredibly important, because a reduction in trust can lead to poorer patient outcomes. Because if you've got less trust, you then have disengagement from healthcare services. So we need to make sure that this doesn't happen.
I totally agree. Trust is such an important word, especially in this area. And I also agree that people are way more open to engaging with AI in terms of healthcare than I think us healthcare professionals would expect. Because I had a master's student last year who was literally looking at that and talking to patients of different demographics, different ages, if they would be willing to talk to AI, to have information from AI. And I fully expected that people would be like, no, I don't want AI anywhere near my healthcare. And actually the results were the opposite. I was really quite shocked by it, but also encouraged, because we want people to engage with their healthcare and to take more ownership of their decisions. Brilliant. Thank you for that. I think we've got time very quickly for one more. Where can we find patients to work with? That's a great question. Where do we find you guys?
Absolutely. I've been talking about we need to be engaging with patients. We need to get them involved in the development of, like AI models and things like that. This is actually something that I'm asked a lot, and it really depends on who you're looking to work with. So if you remember that pyramid that I showed, the type of patient in that pyramid that you're looking to work with. So very generally, asking healthcare professionals and patient organizations can be a really good start, but it doesn't necessarily promote diversity of voice. Some of the more niche patient groups that target specific subgroups within a patient community might be your answer to that, rather than these large patient organizations that are usually the most well-known and usually the easiest to find. There's also social media. Many patient advocates have their own platforms. If you're looking for patient key opinion leaders and expert patients, then I'd recommend going to LinkedIn, Instagram, X, and all the X equivalents that are now out there are really good for identifying content creators and patient activists. It's really about being targeted with your searches and knowing exactly why you're deciding to work with a certain type of patient and what you're going to be asking them to do. You've also got conferences and events. Many have patient speakers in their faculty now. And patients are also co-authoring and authoring publications. So if you look for the affiliation tag patient author, that can also help to identify patients. And then you also have good old-fashioned word of mouth and recommendations. That's also a really good way of finding patients to work with. Ask colleagues, especially in the function areas that regularly work with patients. I've already mentioned patient advocacy function, medical affairs. And you can also ask patient advocates themselves, even if it's in a different disease area that you're looking for a patient in. Many of us have wide networks, and we're happy to recommend other advocates in order to get involved in projects.
Fantastic. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I can see there are more questions on the chat. Thank you so much for being so engaged. We will answer them as we're going along in the chat. And any that we don't get to by the end of the close of this session, we will reach out by email. So thank you for all your questions. Trishna, thank you so much. I always learn something whenever I speak to you. Thank you so much for being part of the IDS.